Welcome to the Write It Down podcast at home edition. I'm your host, Brooke Murata, bringing you one-on-one interviews to challenge, inspire, and encourage. Up next is Elisabeth Weinstock. She's a vibrant fashion designer, avid boxer, and a compassionate mentor and sponsor to people who are trying to turn their lives around. She uses the skills she learned in the streets to cultivate her business, and she uses the empathy she received in her recovery to help others. I'm super excited about the stories that she shares, and I know you'll be excited to listen to her as well. You know what to do. Sit back, relax, and get your pens ready because this is Write It Down. Welcome back to the Write It Down podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Murata, on the mic with Elisabeth Weinstock. Elisabeth, thank you so much for joining us.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I got the privilege of joining your CGA group last Wednesday and got to see what you're about and how you help people and how you serve others. So why don't you tell us what CGA is, how you got involved in that, and what your story was leading up to it?
Wow. How much time do you have?
Hey, I got all day.
Okay. So what happened was my story goes back to, when I was a crazy punk rock kid who did a lot of drugs and ended up with a huge heroin addiction and didn't die. And shared dirty needles with really seedy people and didn't get sick and die. And so fast forward to, I lived to tell, got sober super young, against all odds, went to rehab. Back then, when you went to rehab, you couldn't withdraw from opiates in, 48 hours or get your money back, like they have it today, like it is today. And, I got sober super young as a kid, just crazy, still a punk rock, bright pink hair, and people didn't have bright pink hair back then. And, I was an angry kid. And when I was in the street, there was a certain sort of demographic of people that were nice to me. And fast forward to, I have a son who, when I was married and then divorced, I took him to a therapist who said to me, I would go in at the end and hear what my kid was learning. I kind of just wanted him to have somebody to talk to because I didn't. And she would say to me, "You're so good, Elisabeth. Why don't you go help other kids?" And she said it so many times. I said, "All right, where do you want me to go?" And she gave me a list of youth centers. And I ended up at this one in South Central called a place called Home. And there were all these bald kids running around. And that was who I gravitated towards. And it was what happened was the woman who opened this youth center, she opened it in this gang territory. And so not to get her place all shot up and have a lot of crime in there, she hired them all in that territory. Wow. And so I ended up starting an AA meeting in there in a class called Life. And I would meet with this whole gang of kids, and we would sit down together a couple times a week and talk about the important things of life, communicating, how to shake hands and look someone in the eye. And, that was 24 or 5 years ago. And I've just been doing that kind of work for a very long time until I ended up at a men's home in Watts, where I would run this group, the CGA group, which is just an offshoot of AA. It's really it's a 12-step program, really. AA, CA, NA, CGA. It's all the same to me. I always say if you have a giant hole that you're trying to fill with whatever right here, you're in the right place. And so I did the CGA meeting in person for a long time until COVID happened. And then COVID happened, and I started doing it online. And it helped me grow my reach. It helped me bring in more people that were in different homes, people struggling, people that can't get to a meeting, don't have cars, have just gotten out after life sentences. A lot of my people on my meeting have gotten out after life sentences. They've done 20, 30, 40 plus years.
Wow.
And some of them, a lot of them are amazing, incredible humans. And every Wednesday night at 7 p.m., we're on the meeting. They call me, it's the Miss Elisabeth meeting, although I call it Only Miracles meeting of CGA. And, we meet and you saw it. We talk. I usually get a speaker to share their story, because while everybody has a different story, a lot of these people have many of the same feelings, that they get a lot of comfort in hearing somebody else talk about that they had similar feelings. It's kind of a Me Too movement.
Right.
In an interesting way, without using that word Me Too. You know, when you hear, I use it in this way, when you hear somebody talk about feeling not good enough, you know, believing in the lie that as they weren't enough, and you hear somebody else say it, you feel comfort in that.
Right.
And I believe that these men, it's primarily men, although I welcome women. I just don't have that many that come on.
Yeah.
I just believe that they really deserve a safe place to come to, have a feelings check-in, hear each other talk. And I've watched so many of them open up, and you know, their shoulders drop, and they feel at home, and they feel comfort, and they feel included. And I call on them, try to give them as much time as I possibly can to go around the little squares. But, you know, sometimes I have north of 50, 60 guys in there, and it's, you know, I can't get to everyone in an hour and 15 minutes, but I do provide that safe space for them to come and feel loved.
Yeah. And you create an environment that feels like home, and it's very warm. Did you, when you were living that lifestyle, is that what you craved the most, was empathy and a place that felt like home? And what was your mental health like during that 3.5 years or so that you were struggling?
Well, it was more than 3.5 years. But I struggled for, you know, all of my teens. And I got sober at the end of my teens. My mental health was not good. I was, you know, what happened for me was I started doing drugs at 13, smoking weed, hash, coke. I hated coke, but I tried it so many times to make sure that I hated it. Right. Because that's just, you know, a crazy addict kid not wanting to feel. So when I took the drink or the drug then took me, and then all bets were off. I didn't have to think. I didn't have to feel all of the things that, you know, I was suffering from, just low self-esteem, low self-worth. I didn't know how to communicate. I never felt pretty enough, smart enough, strong enough, I just didn't feel enough. And so drugs were, you know, I was the problem and they were my solution. When there were no drugs around, I drank vodka straight out of the bottle. And so my mental health was poor. Right. It was, even when I got sober, you know, went to this rehab. I did a 23-day detox, which was hell. And then I would go to meetings and I would sit in the back of the room, because I felt like if you got too close to me, then you would find out about me and you wouldn't like me. And so I would sit in the back, even though I was trying to be present there. And over years of just doing the work, showing up, being of service, kind of, you know, raising my hand slowly and slightly, we're here. Right.
Yeah. And there's also some other things that you've implemented in your life that other people can, if they're listening to this and you struggle with drug addiction or you struggle with your mental health. Tell us a little bit about boxing and when that entered into your life and why it became so important to you.
Okay, so when I was a kid, a drug addict kid, I used to get in fights. And I was at boarding school, I'd get in a fight. I was at my high school, I'd get in a fight. And I was at a punk rock show, I'd get in a fight. And when my son was about 2, I was going to a new gym, and they had just opened this boxing ring in part of the gym. And I was watching these guys box while I was working out. I'm lifting weights, but I'm just watching and I'm watching. And I say to my trainer, that's for me. We got to go over there. And my trainer at the time happened to have boxed for years. Okay. And it's funny. I just watched this documentary on Christy Martin. I don't know if you saw it. She was a female champ of the world boxer in 80, I want to say, I don't know, right around this, not far from then. This was in like 93. Okay. And anyway, I started boxing then, and it was such a great release for me. And it gave me so much of what I got to get out when I was younger legally.
Right. Yeah.
And it was
Yeah,
a great workout. And it was just this, it was so fulfilling to me, and I enjoyed it so much. And I've done it for years. I've been doing it. And then I stopped because I hurt my neck a little bit. And I was talking to somebody recently, and we were talking about what exercise he does, what I do. And he was telling me that he boxed. And anyway, I just started again recently in the last few months. And it's just after not doing it for probably maybe 4 years. I've done it on and off forever.
Right.
But it's amazing.
And the thing is, I did boxing. I did lessons for a little bit. And my biggest struggle with boxing is honestly the footwork. And I played soccer, so like I'm decent-ish with my feet, but it's the footwork, the coordination that I feel like it's an art, because I literally like it is hard. It's like ballroom dancing, but it's like way more aggressive. Like hats off to you, because most people, I think when they think obviously boxing, they think of the boxing gloves and hitting things hard, but like the amount of coordination and stamina that you need to box correctly.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. And I respect it way more than I ever had before, because I actually tried it. So hats off to you. I also saw on your website that you have these really awesome, and I say bougie boxing gloves on the front page of your design. So why don't we segue a little bit into why handbags? Why fashion? What started that journey for you? And then we can also talk a little bit about like who you've brought along with you to help you design.
So I've been designing forever. When I first got sober, I got married very young. I didn't know what I was doing. I had a kid super young. I grew up with my son. And I started this sleepwear company when I was young. And I grew this company to a huge company. And the problem was I didn't really have much business savvy. I just figured it out. I took all the knowledge of what I learned in the street.
You're scrappy.
How to survive and not die.
Yes.
And I opened a clothing company, a sleepwear loungewear company called Coton Blanc. And it was a huge company. And I had it for about 8.5, 9 years. And then it literally grew too big and I couldn't handle it. And I lost it. I started shipping Nordstrom's late, Neiman's late, and it was all bad. So that was my first round with designing. Ever since I was a kid, I always was a creative kid. I wasn't a brainiac kid by any stretch. I was a horrible student, bad at math. I was okay at English, but the rest, my mom, would tell me that history was past. It wasn't important.
Sure. I mean, not wrong.
And that's just what happened. And so for me, I've always been an artist, always been creating. And so I did this company, and then I went on to do other things and flowers and always around creating. And then I did interior design for a very long time. And in that time, I would, for whatever reason, do a lot of single men's homes. And when it came time to accessorizing, there was not really there wasn't much that was that cool. There was no cool factor. And so I, loving boxing, having loved boxing forever, decided to make a pair of snakeskin boxing gloves. And
so cool.
And then I made snakeskin footballs and team balls, and I've made them for probably a lot of owners of all these teams over the years. And so it started really with boxes and jewelry boxes and sporting goods, and it morphed into handbags. And then, we did some hand painted stuff, and I would hire all these kids that were just out of jail that were really good taggers or artists, and they worked for me for a long time. Yeah. And, I love the underdog, and I love giving people that don't really ever get a chance. I employ some now. And I restarted my sleepwear loungewear brand in COVID. So I'm simultaneously doing both of those things while, doing some other stuff as well.
Yeah. You don't stop. You just keep.
Right.
I like it. You keep hustling. We're going to take a quick break to discuss Write It Down's brand new website. You can head over to widpod.com, widpod.com, and see all the goods. You'll notice a banner at the top of the page that says Learn More. If you click that link, it'll show you how you can support Write It Down. P.S. My favorite part about the website is the Wid Wall, which is a collection of all the Write It Downs from the show. This podcast is made possible by the 1513 Network, so show the network some love and support by listening to their other shows. If not, just stick with Write It Down, because I'm the coolest, the realest, the illest. Now, back to the show. Something that I really appreciate about you, and I know that you're doing this for others, because out of the comfort and out of the healing you received, now you're turning around and giving it to others. And something that I see in your story that is super unique to you. A lot of people, I mean, this is what I'm fascinated with. I'll cut to the chase, is the fact that you had all this energy and this drive, and it was aimed at the wrong thing for a while. And it took a course correction for you to aim it at something more fruitful, more helpful. So again, you didn't get this entire, and this is what I want people to understand too, who are struggling, is when you get help and you heal, you're not going to get a full on personality transplant and a full on like facelift of who you are. It's using your gifts now for something different. And I really like what you kind of had to say, is like you learned your business savvy in the streets. Like that's what taught you was the streets. And you took that, all of those lessons, all of that energy that you had, and you aimed it at something to help others. And everybody has an opportunity to do that. And I think you do a really good job with your CGA meetings and with who you are with your company and who you are as a person, giving that person a leg up to say, hey, I see this in you. Let's just aim it at something else. And that's sometimes just what people need. And people don't always get the high school football coach. People don't always get, the gymnastics coach or whatever it is in their life, or the parent to do that. And you're that person for a lot of people. And I think it's incredible. I think that what you do day in and day out, whether it's your business, whether it's boxing, whether you're at the grocery store, whether you talked to me on the phone a week or so ago, you want to serve other people. So what was it in your life? I know that you've had a journey, but what was it in your life that brought you so low? Was it anger? Was it parents? What was it? And then ultimately, is there something in your life, maybe I like to call them like a God wink, that gave you a spark of hope in your life?
Right. Well, they say compassion's learned when you've been there.
Mm-hmm.
And I might not relate to all of the stories and experiences of, like, let's take my meeting, for example. Never been to jail or prison. Yet there's so many similar feelings or experiences or times I've been beat up or, experiences, let's just say, in feelings. And I think that compassion is the most important thing that we can give to another person. And I wish I could have experienced that when I was young and when I was growing up, and I had to learn everything myself. And it's funny because with my kid, who, I gave birth to my best friend. We grew up together. We went to shows together. I made him a little punk rock kid. He's just really musical, and he's just like me times 1,000. He's just an amazing human. And I just talked about this in my office today, because someone that works for me that also comes to my meeting went to pick him up the other day for something. And he said that my son got into his car singing. And it was like Sunday morning at 9. He's like, is he drunk? And I said, every single night I'd put Killian, my son, to bed, and I would say, sweet dreams, mama loves you. You're the best person in the world. And I said, that's what happens when you tell your kid that every single night.
Yeah.
They come out singing.
Yeah.
And I think that, I felt really unimportant in my family, in my life. That was what my experience was. I felt like the last kid. It was my dad's 5th kid, my mom's 3rd. I think that I just felt invisible. And some of it could have been true. That was my experience. Some of it could have just been in my head, but that was what I felt.
Right.
And so I always longed for care, nurture, attention, and I didn't get it in my house. And I would go over to my best friend's house and get it and watch her parents give it to her,
Right.
who's still my best friend to this day.
Oh, that's sweet. Yeah.
And, you know, I'm not sure exactly if that answered any of your questions.
Oh, yeah.
Safe to say that I just think that you never know what's going to pull on your heartstrings or what you're going to get drawn to. So the same way I'm in the gym and I see boxing and I'm like, whoa, that's for me.
Right.
Is the same thing that I landed in this youth center and they told me to go do homework with little kids. And I was like, I don't even do homework with my own kid, but why are those kids bald? And then now here I am 25 years later, doing this on a bigger scale and looking even to grow my network more so that I could help more people that need a safe place to go, need to process their feelings. Because, you know, we as a society, we don't know what it's like for these men and women when they come out after doing so many years, what it must be like.
Right.
And our system is so flawed, in my opinion, that, you know, so many people are over sentenced. And there's so much redemption that is proven and shown, yet it doesn't matter.
Right.
And we can't throw away the key on people. It's just not fair, because I could have been dead. I could have gone to jail and prison many times for all the things that I did. And I just didn't get caught. And I stopped super young. And so I have great compassion for that. And I want to help. And if I didn't have, you know, 2 full-time jobs, I would do more to help and grow my network and see to it that I could try to help society more in that light.
Yeah, no. And you do a good job. And I am still blown away. You mentioned it in this show that you hire people that, you know, have been where you were, and that you give them a shot. And I think that has to be huge for them to be able to see, like, oh, okay, I may have been doing graffiti before, but now I'm painting on handbags or whatever it is.
Graffiti. We did a graffiti collection and they got paid to do the graffiti.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I thought that was so cathartic and cool, just because, you know, you know, that was their outlet. I mean, I can't do the graffiti that those guys can do. It's a gift, you know, and it's there and it's coming out of them. And so many people were born in unfortunate circumstances or without means or whatever it is. And so I love to provide that.
Yeah.
If I could employ a lot more of them, I would. You know, some of them that have worked for me that have gone on, they try to get jobs and then there's a background check. And, you know, I have a hard time with that on some level. I understand corporate America and the whole thing, but
but like you said, the system and systems and processes that are in place are flawed. And I think the only way to really overcome that is with people like yourself. And there's other people that you and I know mutually, and other people we know separately that are doing the same thing in a different outlet or avenue. And we have to just keep doing it. I believe that God gives us certain passions and purposes in life that I can't do what you do. You don't do what I do. Like there's gifts and there's channels for people to run in. And I think that what you're up to and the people that you surround yourself with to bring about your purpose is absolutely incredible. Before we get to the part of the show where I ask you to give the audience something to write down, I like to do a couple rapid fire questions that are a little more fun. But since you're in the design world, would you prefer shopping at Macy's or Dillard's, and why? Or neither?
What am I shopping? Target. What am I shopping for?
Clothes. This is a question for me, because this is a personal question, because I have my answer, but I want to know your opinion or your preference.
Can you give me something comparable to Dillard's? I've never been.
You've never been to Dillard's?
No, ma'am.
Is that an East Coast thing? Did I not know that? Okay. Dillard's is probably, I would say it's more like Nordstrom. I think there's, like very similar brands, like Free People. There's, what's her face? Jessica Simpson, Gianni Beanie, like more like that type of niche.
Right.
But you've been to Macy's, right?
I have.
I feel like, wait a second. I feel like so dumbfounded.
Can I go
like,
to a thrift shop instead?
Okay, so you're a thrifter. I should say thrift store,
Could
department
be.
store. There you
Could
go.
be. There you go.
Okay.
Could be.
I'm just going to be simmering on this for a little bit. It's like whenever I was younger and I found out Publix wasn't everywhere, that I was like, what? You people.
What's that?
It's like Ralph's
Oh, right.
or like Ingles or wherever people go grocery
Okay.
shopping. But Publix
Okay.
is like the greatest Southeastern store to ever go to for food. Like, and
Okay.
so I found out like that Publix wasn't everywhere and I was shattered, but I really would have thought Dillard's was everywhere, but man,
Right.
shows how much I know about fashion.
Right.
Okay, next thing. First thing you do right when you wake up. Very first thing.
I pray.
Okay, you pray. So
I
you
pray in writing.
I love that. You journal.
I do.
I love
Every
that.
day.
I do too. Me too. I know my roommate had
Every
just
day.
asked me that. She's like, "Do you journal?" I was like, "Every morning."
Every day.
It keeps me sane. Okay. Electric or manual toothbrush?
Manual.
Manual. Okay. I thought you were going to be
Oh, you
like,
wanna know why?
What's electric?
Well,
Yeah,
because I
do
have
wanna
this
know.
I have this natural doctor who doesn't believe in electric toothbrushes. He says they're bad for you.
Why?
Right. I don't know, but he's like a famous dude and he's really good at his job. So
Okay,
I
we're
trust what he
gonna
says.
have to link that.
Sorry, electric.
Yeah, because
toothbrushes.
it's probably in my head that I think electric cleans my teeth better, but I'm
Your
curious
teeth
to
look
know.
really clean.
Thank you. I'm actually like crazy about my teeth. I typically
Same.
ask a teeth question. Honestly,
Same.
I'll be like, "You floss? What do you do?"
Oh yeah, I do.
Okay. I love that.
Daily.
Okay, this is a question I have asked before. Do you floss before or after you brush your teeth?
Before.
Thank you. Same. I feel like the people
Can't do it after.
people do it. It's a thing. It's a thing,
Okay.
and it concerns me because I feel like
Then you're pushing the food back in.
Thank you. That is the hill I'll die on.
Right.
Okay. Real butter or margarine?
Real butter.
Okay. Oh, well,
Come
I
on.
mean, I don't know.
I'll eat cake for breakfast though.
Okay. I do like hearing that, and not to marginalize, so to speak, West Coast people, but there's a lot of vegans out there.
There are. I'm not one of them. I'm a big meat eater.
Okay. So I was going to say, you either get, I interviewed somebody on this show that is like, has a farm out in California and makes everything from cow's milk. So I'm like, wow, that's refreshing. But I've also interviewed somebody from California that straight up won't touch an animal. So, hey, you just never know. Okay. So we are getting to that point in the show where I ask each guest to give the audience something to write down. So Elisabeth Weinstock, what is your write it down?
Okay. What's my write it down? I would say the only time you should look back is to see how far you've come.
Wow. I like that. Write it down. Elisabeth Weinstock. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah. Happy to be here. Had fun.
It was so much fun.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you for listening to the Write It Down podcast. This podcast is a part of the 1513 network. You can catch a variety of shows on their website, 1513.com. If you enjoy listening to Write It Down, please subscribe, share with your friends, and if there's any ink left in your pen, write a review. For more content, follow the fun on Instagram by following at WIDPOD. That spells WIDPod. It's super cool. Stands for Write It Down Podcast, but it's abbreviated to WIDPod. Anyways, thanks for listening, and we will catch you later.